Gabe. We're ready here. All right, so we're going to talk about the 3 B's of marketing today. Am I loud enough or try to use the mic? You're good? Okay, good. All right, that'll work. Now, so when you think about marketing, how many people get excited to talk about marketing? Anybody fired up? Oh, okay, we got two people. Okay, three. We have 3 people excited about marketing. That's okay. That is okay. How many of you were a little intimidated by marketing? It's a little intimidating. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. You know, my wife and I started Luxury Real Magazine, as most of you know, and before that, we were realtors. We had our real estate license. We were just trying to figure things out. And, you know, we didn't know a lot about marketing. We just didn't have a lot of training in this area. And so for us, we had to really start kind of digging in and kind of, it's like on-the-job training. Is that good training, on-the-job training? Sometimes it's good. Sometimes you learn the hard way, like, don't ever do that again, right? Don't do that again. But, you know, we kind of made it work, and we're working through it. And so today what I want to talk about is I want to dive into the 3 B's of marketing, and I'll tell you how this class came about. So at Champions, have you all heard of Champions School of Real Estate in San Antonio? So Champions School of Real Estate, John Knotson, do y'all know John? He teaches like most of the classes there, John. He said, hey, can you come and teach a marketing class for me? And I was like, sure, like what do you want me to talk about? He goes, I don't know, just talk about marketing. There's a lot to talk about, John. And he's like, well, just keep it simple. And I go, okay. I said, that sounds great, John. I said, but specifically, what would you like to talk about? He says, I don't know, just come up with 3 things. So I said, 3 things, that's it for marketing? And I said, well, what if we did the 3 B's? And he goes, that actually sounds really good. What are they? I said, I don't know yet. But I'm going to figure it out, John. I'm going to figure out what those 3 B's are. And so I started working on this, and this has been a project that I've been working on little by little ever since then. And then as I kind of develop it and as I work my business, I kind of see things to add, new things to kind of put to work in this presentation. So without further ado, we're going to dive right into this idea of the 3 B's of marketing. And so you guys know who I am. I don't need to spend any time on it. Has anybody seen one of my Mindset Mondays? Anybody got a chance to see them? Okay, great. Yay. And if you were part of the mastermind, you'll know that I've been talking about some of you during those. So you got to watch them. You know, you might come up in a mastermind in a good way, So what are the 3 B's? Anybody want to guess? What are the 3 B's of marketing? Want to guess one? Who has one that they know? Branding. Oh, good. You got it. That's one. Branding. Okay, tell me another one. What do you think the next one is? You got the first one. Booze. You got a good group, Tony. Because whenever you're marketing, you need lots of booze, right? I love that. What else? Another B. I need another B. When you think marketing, what's the first thing that kind of comes to your mind when you start thinking about, oh man, I got that magazine ad or that flyer? What? Budget. Right there. Budget. That's number 2. We're going to talk about budget. You know, how you should budget. And last but not least, you're not going to guess this one because I had to kind of force this one in there. I call it best vehicle. Okay? Best vehicle. And the reason why I came up with that is because whenever you're marketing, sometimes you're in a position where you are looking for the best way to get your message across. Is that always going to be a magazine? No, it might be a Facebook post or it might be a LinkedIn post. But you've got to use the tools that are at your that are available to you and figure out which one is going to be best for that message. And so that's why I came up with best vehicle. And we're going to talk through some of the best vehicles. We're going to break these down. Now, I love this because whenever I talk about branding, I have to bring this up. Tell me what you see. Just shout it out. What do you see up there? Say it out. Keep going. Nike. Subway. Someone say YouTube. What'd you say in the back? McDonald's. Okay. Now, if we were to stop for a second and I said, okay, everybody knows what these are. What are these? Logos. They're logos. But they're much more than a logo, aren't they? Right? Most of these are all like, they all have a brand attached to them. Can we all agree to that? There's a brand attached to it. And sometimes I think when I talk to realtors, and especially people, because they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, I want to get into real estate. I want to be a realtor. And I was like, come with me. We need to talk. I was like, listen, we really need to talk, you know. But they want to come into real estate, and I have to help them understand that, listen, yes, I get it. It looks fun. It looks easy. They're all $1 million deals on $1 million, $1 million listing, LA, right? They're all $1 million deals. But see, in San Antonio, you're going to have to do 200,000 too. You're going to have to do 150. You're going to have to do maybe a land deal that you weren't expecting. And so, but my point to this is that when they come to me, they always have a logo. They say, here's my logo. What do you think? I'm like, that's great. That's a good start. But what we really need to focus on is, what is your brand? What are you going to stand for? The logo is just a representation, but what are you going to be? Like, what's going to differentiate you? And so that's what I like about this quote, kind of to start us off. Think about this quote. Doing business without advertising or marketing is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. And here's the thing. Can we all agree we have to market? Can we all agree we have to advertise? It's just part of the business. Now, the idea is what fits in my budget? What's my branding first? Because we got to know what you're branding. What do you stand for? What's my budget? And then what's the best vehicle for me to spend that budget? Okay, but we got to start off with this idea of brand. And so for me, when I think of brand is not just a logo. Like, it's not just a logo. Brand is a name, term, design, symbol, or any other feature that identifies you or your service as distinct from those of other agents. That's a mouthful, but let's just break this down for a second. So we know that a brand is not just a logo. It's not just a symbol. What else is it? Based on the definition.
The feature that identifies what we can do that other agents can't.
Well, it's something that separates you. That's exactly right. So your brand is basically the way you say, hey, here's how I'm different, right? Your brand is what you provide to that client that gives them the feeling like, tell me your name again. Remind me. Eric. That says, I got to work with Eric. I like the way Eric works. Eric is always this. He's always that. I want to work with Eric, right? And so brand is so important, because how many agents are there in Kerrville? 302. And how many people are in Kerrville? 22,000, and you've got 300 agents. What about in Fredericksburg? What are the numbers? How many agents in Fredericksburg? 250. Okay. Now, population is lower in Fredericksburg, isn't it? Yeah. So it's about 10. So it's, oh my gosh. So it's half of Kerrville, the same amount of realtors. That's fun. Right? That's fun. Do you know how many agents are in San Antonio? 12,000. Okay. But how many people live in San Antonio? Almost 2 million, right? Somewhere there, 1.7. The numbers kind of get a little, hazy because they keep going further out and they're trying to annex everything. But here's the thing. The idea here is that, okay, how do I create a brand and differentiate myself from all the other agents that everybody in town already knows? How do we do that? Well, you've got to start figuring out, okay, well, what do I stand for? You've got to figure out your brand advantage. What's the advantage of using you as opposed to someone else, right? And so the ways to build your brand, I have 3 ways. You want to build your brand, here are 3 ways to build it. Number 1, define your brand advantage. And this is what separates you. What is your brand advantage, okay? Number 2 is make sure all collateral is congruent. And I'm going to really dive into that, because one of the things I will tell you is that you have a company that is congruent. Your materials are beautiful. The stuff that you put out is fantastic, and it's congruent. And then the last one is you need to live your brand through your actions. And that's a really powerful one, because we're going to start looking at some other companies so that you understand what I mean by that. Okay, so if you're going to build your brand, number one, you got to know your brand advantage. So what does that mean? Well, what are your top 3 values or beliefs? What do you believe? What do you know? What are the top 3 things that for you are like hobbies, things you love? Anybody here love horses? Okay, Eric loves horses. Anybody own horses? Own horses? Okay, great. Anybody love horse properties? Anybody like horse properties? Okay, good. So, so in knowing that you love horse properties, could you develop that as one of your items to help people find other horse properties? You could. You could use that as a brand advantage. So the top 3 things, whatever they may be, it could be church. It could be the foundation of where you worship. It could be PTA. Any PTA moms and dads in here? Anybody? No? All right. It could be a club or something that you're a part of. The last group that I taught this class, one of the ladies was telling us about the Mazda Miata Club. And I was like, what? She said, no, she's like, you got to, I'm telling you, one of my clients, he's a part of a Miata club. He has a Mazda Miata, and these guys all park their little Miatas, and they all get all excited about their little cars, and they get together, and it's a club. And I go, that sounds really fun. And she goes, no, you don't understand. All his business comes from that club. A lot of his deals come from hanging out. Now, he's doing 2 things. What is he doing? When he's hanging out with his buddies, he's doing 2 things. He's enjoying himself and marketing at the same time. He's branding himself and marketing at the same time. Does he even need to walk around with a big old shirt that says Century 21? Does he need to have flags on his car like, hey, open house this weekend, guys, bring your Miatas? He doesn't even need to do that. Because everybody in the Miata Club, what do they know? They know he's a realtor and that he's already helped them on a deal, right? And so you need to know what are your 3 values, and then secondly, what is a niche group that you can be yourself in? So this is the part where I need you to think about this, because I want you at your tables. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. All right. Now, what I want you to think about is, what is something that you really enjoy doing, okay, that you would want to be a part of a group that does that, and you'd want to join that group? And everybody just share one thing. Maybe you have 2. If you have 2, share 2. But I want you to briefly talk about what do you enjoy talking about or doing, and share it with the group. You've got 2 minutes. Go. Share with your table. So come on back. I'm curious. I just heard an awesome niche story here. But I'm curious, if you heard something, you don't have to share yours. But if you heard one that you're like, man, this is a cool niche. It's not my niche, but that's a cool niche, and they need to use that one. Who wants to share? Who have heard a cool niche of a way that they can market to a certain group? Sports bar. Sports bar. Love it. Yeah, I love it. You could be the mayor of the sports bar. Yeah, I love it. What else? What'd y'all hear here? What did you hear here that you loved? 2? Okay, tell me one. Tell me one. Gardening. That's a good one. That's a good one. And what did y'all have here? Which one did y'all love?
The Secret Society.
The Secret Society. We can't even tell you more about it. That's it. It's over. All right? But there's a secret societies happening over here. Okay? By the way, they were in the paper, just so you know. They were in the paper. What do y'all have here at this table? No, anybody. Anybody. What'd you hear? Vineyards. That's a good one. That's a good one. What y'all in the back? Tell me one that you thought about. There you go. That's a good one. In the back over here? What do y'all have? Okay. Love it. And right here, well, y'all had a bar. Y'all had the sports bar. I got it. I know. We already know who that was, and it wasn't the guy. We already know who that was. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that's beautiful about this, right? So what we just did is we tried to figure out the 3 values you have, 3 beliefs that you have, and then we're trying to plug them into a niche where you can add value to that niche. Now, if you go into that group or that organization and you start adding value to that group, what's going to start to happen? Well, number one, you're fulfilling yourself because you enjoy it. You love the gardening aspect. You love teaching about it. But you're also able to share with people, hey, I can help you with real estate. Why don't I help you with real estate? And that's the power of branding yourself, is that sometimes we think we have to be all things to all people. Now, can we work with everybody? To a certain extent. Anybody fire a client? If you fired a client, you understand that sometimes you just got to fire a client. That's just the way it is, right? It's like, this is just not going to work. I need to refer you, you know? But the idea is that if you can really define your brand advantage, now you know where to put your budget. Listen to what I just said there. If you know your brand advantage and you know where you want to be, you know the places that you like, now you know where to kind of allocate some of those funds. Now you know, hey, I want to allocate it here, I want to allocate it there. You know where you want to go. And so find a niche group that matches your personality. It's powerful. And this is the quote that I love. I always share this in marketing, is that the reality is mass appeal is dead. It's dead. You cannot appeal to everybody. And if you think about it, like anybody, an Apple fan, anybody like Apple? So I just got to share with you this story. I hated Apple. I had a teacher next to me. His entire classroom was Apple computers. I made fun of him every day. All right? I was like, Apple is stupid. They don't even have a right click. I mean, that's dumb. Like, how do they not have a right click? This was back in, 2000s, right? And I just thought, why do you like them so much? They're so stupid and they're dumb and, they're just, I hate Apple. And then my wife bought me an Apple computer. Yeah, right? She was probably talking to my buddy, right? But I was getting my master's degree, and so part of that is I needed something. I was going to need something a little bit more portable, and I came home one day, and she had purchased an Apple laptop, spent like $3,000 on a laptop. And when I realized it was mine, I like there was like a tear. It was like that commercial with the sad music. And I was like, I can't believe you bought this. But here's the thing, right? The thing about Apple is Apple trying to appeal to everybody? They're really not. Apple just makes good stuff. They're not trying to appeal to everybody. Even to this day, their phones, did you hear the latest update for the new phone that just came out? It's just faster, and it now has 3 cameras on the back. It's got like 3 lenses on the back. Like they're not trying to appeal and go after every single feature because they're not worried about mass appeal. They know that they're just going to innovate little by little, little by little, little by little. They're going to make the phone just a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. They're not worrying about trying to appeal to the masses. Now, I will tell you what happened with that computer. I ended up sending it back and customizing the whole thing. And since then, I've never had another computer. I've always had Mac. And by the way, they do have right click now, just so y'all know. They figured that out, okay? They figured out the right click. But the thing is, keep this in mind when you're marketing. Mass appeal, appealing to everybody, is really, really difficult. You're going to have to go after your market, which is your brand advantage. Who do you want to go after? Now, this is where I feel like I have to make sure you understand this, that your company has this down to a science. Century 21, The Hills, what you are a part of, has what I'm about to talk about down to a science. I even had a bunch of stuff that I wrote out, and I just said it's pointless. I just need to show you what your company's doing so that you fully understand the value of what you have in front of you on a daily basis. And so the congruency, y'all know what I mean by your collateral congruent. First of all, what do I mean by collateral? When I say collateral, what am I talking about? Marketing pieces, print, right? Any digital, even your digital. Every aspect of your collateral needs to be congruent. And that word congruent means what? Needs to match. Yeah, it should work together. It should match. You shouldn't have one logo that looks completely different and another logo that looks completely different and be all over the place. What about colors? Should colors be very similar, right? Absolutely. And this is where, like I said, your team is working really, really hard every single day to make sure everything that's put out is the same. It's congruent. And so I got to see this. Selling your home, why choose us? Y'all know this packet, right? I looked through this packet. This is an amazing resource to give a client to talk about why they should choose you, why they should choose your company. And the styling and everything that they put in it, the detail that they put in. Who made this? Was this William? William made this? William, nice job, buddy. Nice job. But the detail that went into this, like they're not throwing stuff together just to throw it together. There's a rhyme and a reason, right? And this one, what about this? Buyer services proposal. Y'all use this too, right? I hope so. Another amazing piece, right? And then I got to see this, which is your relentless premium online placement and print relationships. And the idea that this is all of what the broker is doing to get your broker's name out there in front of everybody. And I feel like it's already ruffling feathers in some places, which I love. It's great, right? You know, but the idea is this, is that it's the same. It's congruent. And when you have a congruent brand, right? At Starbucks, are you ever going to get the wrong label at Starbucks? Are you ever going to get the wrong logo? It's not going to happen. They're going to make sure that their collateral, everything they do is on point, down to the cups, down to the little cake cups that you put in the machines. Everything is going to be congruent. And it's the same way. Look at this. This is a business card. Your business cards are congruent. Same color, same logos. Your flyers, everything is congruent. So this needs to be the standard for you even when you're online and you're doing social media. Use the same logos. Use the same colors. Try to keep that very similar. Why? What does that do? What is that going to do for you in the company? It keeps the recognition of the company and of you out there in front of everybody. Now, if everybody's doing something completely different and everybody's using different logos, what starts to happen? It's disjointed. It's like, well, wait, are you with Century 21 or who are I thought they were all like no, same, congruent. And the team, just the meeting that we got to have with William and Tony sitting down when we were talking through this, the one thing I'll tell you is that when you have a brokerage that's willing to put up the money and willing to spend the budget that Tony spends to put your name out in front of people, you've got a power behind you like a lot of other agents and a lot of other companies don't have. And so always keep that in mind is that, listen, they're always on the forefront. They're always working on what's new, what can we get out there, and it's always congruent. And your brand needs to be congruent. That's part of it. And then secondly, this is power. This, to me, you have your symbol, right? You have your niche. But now if you really want your brand to stick, you're going to have to live your brand through your actions, right? If you really and truly want to make your name known I know who I need to call when I need a ranch, or I know who I need to call when I need a property sold, you're going to have to live your brand through your actions. So what do I mean by that? Listen, you've got to follow up. Part of your brand is following up with people. And you have to promptly do it. And I've heard people have messages where I will call them and realtors say, hey, I return calls between this time and this time, right? Now that's great to a certain extent, but if somebody's calling about 123 Alamo and you don't pick up, guess what they do? They're going to call that next agent. So you got to follow up quickly. You got to answer your phone. The great story about this, and I think I shared it with you last time, but recently there was a house that sold in the Dominion. It was over $2.5 million. And the gentleman that bought that house went and looked at another house. And while he was at that house, he ran into the realtor that he had called a few times. Now, he was with his new agent that was showing him that house that he had called about. And as they're walking out, he says, hey, by the way, I did call you. And she's like, no, I don't think. He said, no. I called, I left a message, I didn't hear back, and so-and-so has stepped in and helping me out. Within a month, he had bought a $2.5 million property. Cash. Okay? The thing is that you never know who's calling you, and the idea is that you have to follow up. And that's living your brand through your actions. You got to follow up. That's part of your brand. That's part of your brand. You have to over-prepare. And if you've been to my listing presentation class, I talk about that, is you want to make sure you walk into that listing, not like, oh, here's some papers. Oh, yeah, let's just sign it up. It's a T-ball. I know you're going to listen. No. You need to go in there with a marketing plan. You need to know the neighborhood. You need to have the listing paperwork already printed. Maybe you don't know the price yet because you're going to negotiate a little bit, but you have a really good idea on price because you've done your CMA. You're over-prepared. And part of being over-prepared, living your brand through your action, is knowing what's on the market. When those new listings hit, you might want to start studying them, figuring out what's available. What can I go show this week? You've got a buyer. What can we go show this week? Over-prepare. And remember, you are the business. So every interaction is a direct reflection of your brand. Think about that. Every interaction is a reflection of your brand. So if you don't follow up, and that person has called you several times, and then you come over here to the other side, and then you reach back out to them, and they're like, well, I called you a few times and I didn't hear back. Every interaction is an opportunity for you to show your brand. And it's so important that you live your brand through your actions. And then you need to be consistent and predictable. Be consistent and be predictable. Now, what do I mean by that? What do you think I mean by that? Part of your brand. Yep.
I mean, that's in a very simple way.
That's it, and
apply it so many other ways.
100%. What about the idea that you consistently follow up, and they just know you're going to call them back, and they're like, oh, I knew you were going to call me back, and you're just consistent. They're not going to buy. You've called them back every couple months. You're just retouching. Hey, I know you said you want to. Nope, you just wait. You call them back. Hey, it's me again. It's that crazy realtor. Just reaching back out. You're consistent. You're predictable. It's probably at the same time, the same day. You're just doing your follow-up, consistent and persistent. And then one day you call and they're like, you're not going to believe this. My wife and I were just talking about buying a house, and it's 2 years later. My wife and I were just talking, and you called me. Of all people, you've been calling me for 2 years. Consistent, predictable, follow up. But that's how you live your brand through your actions. So let's look at that. Let's think about this for a second. Anybody ever eaten here? Anybody here not like Chick-fil-A? I was like, I've always wondered, is it, my wife doesn't really like chicken, so she's a vegetarian, so she doesn't really eat chicken. But the idea is this, is that when you go to Chick-fil-A, I don't care where in the United States you go. Doesn't matter. If you go to Chick-fil-A, what's going to happen when you say, can I have when you pay or whatever, hey, can I have this? What do they always respond with?
My pleasure.
When you say thank you, they say, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It doesn't matter where you go. It's like, and a lot of times, I don't always, like, you go to some places, I always love this. So I get my hair cut at this one place in my neighborhood, and like, someone walks in the door, and I guess they have this rule where they have to say hello. And it's like, she's cutting my hair, she's like, hi. Hey. And it's like, okay, this is not working. Like, they didn't, like, I don't know who trained them on that hello. But it doesn't work. It sounds so just not predictable, not consistent. Everyone's just kind of like, they're not even looking up. They're just like, hey, welcome. But at Chick-fil-A, it always feels what? Sincere, genuine. They've been trained to say it in a way where you feel like, oh, I like you, Now, it's consistent, it's predictable. You get a chicken sandwich anywhere in the U.S., what is it going to taste like? Chicken sandwich. It's going to be the same. Now, Popeyes came out with a chicken sandwich. Do y'all have a Popeyes in Kerrville? Yeah. Did anybody get the chicken sandwich? No. Nobody? Okay, William, right there. You were on that same page. William got the chicken sandwich, right? William, how was it? Tell everybody.
Fabulous, especially with the spicy sauce.
It's good, people. Like, I bit into that sandwich and I was like, oh my goodness. Like, Chick-fil-A's in trouble. And then what happened? They ran out. You can't go buy a chicken sandwich right now. Don't go. They're not there, okay? They completely sold out, right? It's like, who messed this up, right? But here's the thing. This is part of brand. Have you ever gone to Chick-fil-A and they run out of chicken? It's never happened, right? But now here's the thing. This is predictable, it's consistent, it's part of their brand, it's who they are. You go to Popeyes, I walked in and it was pure chaos. And I stood at the counter and waited for 5 minutes for someone to take my order. And there's 5 people just running around in circles in the back. And you can see them all, and they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them. And they're just running around. Finally, the guy comes up, he's like, okay, what do you want? Can I have a chicken sandwich? How many do you want? That's literally what he said. How many do you want? As if it was like a chore that I was asking for a chicken sandwich, right? It's not predictable. And the new news is, and I don't know if you've heard this, the main reason why they can't sell chicken sandwiches, they can't get the buns. Like, someone messed up this whole concept and they can't get enough buns to put this chicken sandwich in. Yeah, they're saying, bring your own bun and you can have a chicken sandwich. Right? It's the craziest thing. But so, with that said, I need you to understand something. Does Chick-fil-A know their brand? Are they congruent? Oh, yes. Do they live their brand through their actions? 100%. What about Starbucks? Now, anybody ever been to San Francisco? You go to San Francisco or Portland, on every corner, there's a Starbucks. I'm like, who could drink this much coffee? Like, literally. Now, if you go to San Francisco and you get a whatever, mocha latte, whatever you get, I'm not a big, the big thing that I like to order is a John Wayne. Anybody know what a John Wayne is? It's basically a shot of espresso with a little bit of cream. And they call it a John Wayne. Or a Diplo.
Is it gritty?
No, it's not gritty. No. Oh, it's, yeah. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter where you go, whatever you order. If you're in San Francisco or if you're on a cruise, do you know that they have Starbucks on the cruises now? When I walked onto the boat, I was on the Harmony of the Seas, that crazy new boat that Royal just came. They have a Starbucks right in the middle of the promenade. And every morning there was a line for coffee. Every morning. I'm like, guys, just wait. But let me tell you, the coffee on the ship, guess what? Tastes just like it does in San Antonio. Tastes just like it does in San Francisco. It's predictable. It's consistent. That's how you need your brand to be. Consistent, predictable. They know when they work with you, they already know what they're going to get. They're going to get a call on Tuesday, and that is your Tuesday call is, I'm just calling to let you know what's going on. And that call is for all your listing. Maybe you're going to do your listing calls, follow-ups on Tuesday. Every Tuesday, you make that follow-up call and you say, look, we didn't have any showings, but listen, I got some intel. The house across the street, it didn't get any showings either, so we're good, right? So now, are you telling them something? Is this good information? Yes. And because what happens when you put a house on the market and you're not consistent and you're not predictable and you stop talking, where communication just evaporates, what do they start doing? They start talking about you. They're like, we haven't heard from her. He hadn't called us. And then another week goes by. Well, I wonder if they really want to sell this thing. I don't think they want to sell it. And then another week goes by. Hey, should we call that other realtor? Maybe they could do it better. Right? But if you're communicating, guess what? If you're predictable, if you're consistent, they already know. It's like, nope, they got it. They got it. Nope, nobody's getting any showings. We're good. Nope, nothing is sold in 6 months. They just told me we're okay. We're gonna figure this out little by little. They're doing everything they can. Consistent and predictable. That's how you build your brand. Now, budget. Now, this is a touchy subject because everybody's like, I don't want to talk about what my budget is. No. But your budget is your budget. But I need to start with this. If you don't have the money, it's okay not to spend the money, because I'm going to show you vehicles that are free. Because if you don't have it, don't go in debt to spend it. Let me say it again. If you don't have it, don't go in debt to spend it. Because your budget should be what you set aside from what's coming in. You with me? Okay? So now budget. Determine your yearly budget. Now, what all that means is how much are you going to spend in a year? How much are you going to spend? Set it and spend it. What if you spend it all? It's done. Someone calls you, hey, I got the front cover of Luxury Home Magazine. Tomas, it's spent. It's done. Budget's over. Sorry. That's okay. It's okay. But you need to set a budget and you need to spend appropriately. Now, could you save little pockets along for opportunities? Pull a little bit aside and say, if a right opportunity comes up, I might do this. Absolutely. But you need to set a budget and you need to start and then spend it, right? And I'll show you vehicles of what to do with that budget. And then never stop marketing. Never stop. I had agents when I first started in the Luxury Home Magazine. Their big deal was, Tomas, nobody buys in December. Nobody buys in December. Let me do a little research. There was like $13 million homes that sold in December. There were a bunch of $500,000 homes that sold in December. Like, do people still buy in December here? Yes. People still buy in November? Yes. Houses are still being bought. Houses are still being sold. The market doesn't just shut off. Now, does it get slower? But see, here's the thing. If you're consistent and you're predictable, right? Follow me with this. If you're consistent and you're predictable, when all the other realtors back away and they start chilling and they start resting and you're consistent and predictable, guess what? All those deals that they should have gotten start to come your way. Why? Because you're consistent and you're predictable and you're in making things happen even during times when agents start to pull back. And trust me, never stop marketing. I love this quote about marketing and advertising. Stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. Okay? Can we save time? Can we stop our clocks, right? You can't. So you can't save time. You can't stop a clock. You've got to keep that budget going and keep it moving. And there are so many amazing ways to do it. Now, I always have this question, how much should I spend? Whatever you budget. That's it. You budget X, spend that. If that's what you can budget and you know you can afford it, spend that. It's okay. Now, what if you say, I don't have anything to budget? Great, I'm going to show you some vehicles of what you could do when you don't have any budget. Okay? But the idea is this, is never stop marketing. Never stop. Never stop. Okay? Now, best vehicles. Let's break this down. We have social media, online, print, and then direct mail. And print and direct mail can go together, but I separated it here. We have networking and word of mouth. Now, all of these are vehicles. You with me? So now I have my brand, because we got to start off with brand, don't we? We have to know where it is that we want to, if it's gardening, for instance, if you have a gardening club, you need to figure out which one of these will be the best vehicle where I can start going after my niche. Now, I want you to think about this. What if we had never talked about what your 3 values are? What if we had never talked about your niche at all? Then what would happen is typically people are going to try to do a little bit of everything for everybody. And that doesn't work. Mass appeal is dead. And so what we have to do is figure out our brand advantage, figure out what makes you different, live your brand through your actions, and then start really doubling down and making sure you stick to your budget and find vehicles that can help you. So, first question, are you ready? Which one of these is the most powerful and free? Okay, good. Y'all got that one, right? Nobody has failed this test yet. I was just making sure, right? How many, raise your hand if you've had more than 2 word-of-mouth referrals this year. Raise your hand. More than 2. Raise them high so I can see them. High, so I can see them. Okay, good. All right, hands down. Raise your hand if you've had more than 5 word-of-mouth referrals. More than 5. High. Raise it high. Okay. Anybody have more than 10 word-of-mouth referrals this year? Love it. I love it. Okay, now, think about this. What did you pay for that referral? I mean, it didn't cost you money, but I guarantee you those referrals did cost you something. What did they cost?
Your blood and guts.
Blood and guts. I love it. I love it. And I know where that's coming from. It's coming from because you've been in the business and you have been dedicating time, energy, blood, sweat, tears. You know the market. You've been here. You've done it for a long time. And now that harvest is starting to come. And you're consistent. So you've been planting, you've been sowing, you've been cultivating. I had a whole mindset Monday on this. Plant, cultivate, harvest, right? And in that sowing, in that cultivating, it can feel like, man, when am I going to get somebody to give me a deal, right? When am I going to get that word of mouth referral? And then all of a sudden, it just starts coming because you put in the work, right? You put in the time to learn the market. Now, it was time, it was energy, did you have to pay? Maybe you had to go to a class. Maybe you went to Tom Ferry. Maybe you went to another class. Maybe you went to y'all have a huge summit, don't you, for Century 21? Yeah, 121. The 121. Maybe you went to something and you invested in yourself. That's part of maybe some of that cost, but that helps overall. But here's the thing. Word of mouth referral, those are amazing. They're great. But they take planting, cultivating, and then you get the harvest. Now, here's what we want when we come into real estate. We're like, I want to throw a bunch of seeds out there and then everybody just start giving me your deals. They want to harvest. Everybody wants to sow. Nobody wants to cultivate. You got to weed. Yes, you're going to have to, right? I mean, again, I'm not a gardener, but if those weeds start getting in there, you're in trouble. Nobody wants to cultivate. And the cultivating is where you build relationships. It's where you build lifetime friends. It's where you have people you travel with. It's where you build this connectedness that it doesn't matter what happens, every person in that person's life is going to know about you if they need real estate. Anybody have a VIP client like that? It doesn't matter if anybody needs anything to do with real estate. They're like, oh, but you know who you need to call. You just need to call my friend. Call her. That's it. Call her. That's it. Nobody else. Word of mouth is so powerful, and it's one of those deals where when you get them, I mean, anybody ever been called to say, hey, could you just write this up for me? Has anybody had that deal? Could you just write this up for me? Isn't that a beautiful deal? So you just want me to just fill out the contract? That's it, right? Just write it up for me. I remember I had one of my clients in San Antonio. She's like, yeah, he just told me to write it up. I go, what do you mean? Well, he just called me up and said, write it up. I'm going to come buy that house. And I just thought, wow, both sides of the deal. Wow. Just write it up. Those deals only come when you cultivate. So it's going to take some work on your part, but it's only going to come when you cultivate, when you're planting seeds. And what are the seed planting? What would that be? What's your seed planting? You're touching, right? But what is that? That's what we're talking about here. It's marketing. Your seed planting is part of your marketing. You're just putting those seeds out there, putting them out there. Little Instagram posts, little Facebook, little added something, direct mail, just sold card. You're just planting. Then the cultivating comes when you pick up the phone and you start doing what? Start calling, reminding, calling, predictable. Hey, let me help you out. Hey, did you see this property? It just went on the market. Oh, I love that house. You just cultivating, and the next thing you know, harvest. So, best vehicle. Now, what's another one up there that's free? Networking. Can everybody agree networking? Y'all see that one? Is networking free? Yeah, really, what does it cost you?
It costs you entry into an event.
You may have to pay for a ticket, right? You may have to buy a ticket.
Beverage.
What's that?
The price of a beverage.
The price of a beverage. There you go. That's right. Now, my thing with networking is you notice I put something very specific there. Any event without realtors. I had to change my entire presentation to make sure people understood this, right? Because here's the deal. When people network, if you're hanging out with a bunch of agents, typically what do the agents do? All the agents just get together with their buddies. They talk in a corner. They never meet anyone new, have a drink, and go home. Guilty as charged. I've been there. I was an agent. I've been there. And the idea is if you're going to network, you need to go to events where there aren't other realtors. And this is where you get to find what? What group should you go to? What events should you go to? We talked about this earlier. What should you go to? What you're interested in, what you love, what you get like a kick out of. If you don't like horses, don't go to that horse show. That doesn't make that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Right? If you don't like gardening, don't go to the gardening show. So, to me, I think the interesting thing with networking is, sometimes we get trapped and we feel like if we go to these events that we go and then we're there, but we never meet anybody new. Make it a game. Make it a challenge. If you go to an event, you need to make it a challenge. I'm going to meet 3 new people. Okay? Now, I want you to do the math on this. Are y'all ready? Get out your phones. We're going to do a quick little exercise. Watch this. I want to show you how you can add a bunch of people to your database in 1 year. Are you ready? Here we go. I want you to go to your calculator on your phone. Now, could we meet 5 new people every week? Everybody here, can we agree to that? 5 new people every week. 5 brand new people every week. Can we meet 5 new people? I see some people kind of, I'm not sure. Did that sound like a lot? Okay, you want to make it 3? 3? All right, let's make it 3. All right, everybody feel good about that number, 3. All right, here we go. You ready? Watch this. Watch this. Now, in a week, if you meet 3 people, I'm going to assume that some of y'all go on vacation. How many weeks in a year? 52. I'm going to assume some of y'all don't work for 2 weeks, okay? Is that okay? 2 weeks, you just take time off, right? I'm not going to meet 3 people those 2 weeks. So what's 50 times 3? Go ahead and calculator. 150. Are you ready? Now, take that number. Now stay with me now. Stay with me. You just put 150 names in your database. You have their name, you have their information, you know where they work, and you have their phone number, and you have their email. And you say, well, Tomas, I don't know who to call. You just got 3 new people that you could add every week. Now, do you need to call them weekly? Please, God, no. Don't do that. Don't call them every week, right? But how often should you call them? Every day. No, don't do that either. What about quarterly? What about quarterly? Could you set them up on a system where you touch them 4 times in a year? 4 times in a year. I want you to imagine you just pick up the phone, you have those 3 people, and in 1 year, you have 150 people, and you just set them on a little rotation, and you call them every quarter, and you just go down your line, you just make your calls, this is called lead generation. And you just make your calls. You're consistent, you're predictable, right? They know, oh man, Eric, what's going on, buddy? Hey, what's up, buddy? Hey man, I'm reaching out. I wanted to tell you what's going on in the real estate market. Man, there's some really cool things going on, and I wanted to share them with you. You've got about 2 minutes. I just need 2 minutes of your time. Yeah, sure, Eric, whatever. Listen, this just sold, this house just sold, and I remember you told me you thought about selling. So I looked at your neighborhood. Here's what's sold on your street and how much. Let me tell you, if I had a realtor that called me quarterly and would give me something of value, I'd pick up the call every time they called me. But remember, you got to give value. So now you ready with your calculator? Here we go. Ready? 150, multiply that by 10.
1,500.
Right? Just add a zero. So now you have 1,500 contacts in your database in the next 10 years. Anybody think you could sell some property, some people, if you had 1,500 people in your contact database? Could you sell some property really quickly? How much did it cost you? Listen to me. How much did it cost you? Time. Time. It cost you your time. That's it. Did you have to pull out budget? Did you have to have a big budget for that? No. You were at the store. You ran into someone. You said hello. You're like, hey, isn't your son on the football team? Oh, yeah, he's on the football team. Oh, man, that's so awesome. It's great to meet you. My name is Tomas. I'm a realtor. Man, I'd love to get your card. Do you have a business card? I'd love to just follow up with you to tell you about what's going on in real estate in Kerrville and in Fredericksburg or San Antonio. Oh, yeah, here's my card. Yeah, thank you. I'll be in touch. Trust me, I won't bug you. I won't call you every day. But I will follow up with you just to make sure you know what's going on. That's it. How long did that conversation take? 45 seconds? Right? That's it. You start doing that, you add literally 1,500 contacts to your database, and it didn't cost you anything but the time and the guts to ask for it. That's it. That's all it took. So now, these others cost a little bit of money. Now, is social media free? It can be. It can be. But if you want to be good at it, it's not. Right? If you want to be good at social media, you're going to have to spend some money. It's just the way it is. Facebook has made it to where you have to spend money. So we're going through this weird thing right now with our Facebook on Luxury Home Magazine. We've seen our numbers plummet. I mean, just like radically shift. From one, like we're getting a lot of reach, and then all of a sudden it's just plummeted. Now, we spent a lot of money and a lot of social media for about a good 2-month period, and then I started tapering back. The moment I tapered back, you just start seeing this, and then it just went. And I sat there, we started looking at our posts, we're like, is anything changed? Are we doing anything different? We weren't doing anything different. But what I think happens is when you're consistently spending money, Facebook kind of gets into this rhythm of they're sharing all your stuff. They're putting it out there. They're putting it out to all your people. The minute you pull back, that stops showing up in all those feeds, obviously because you're not paying for it anymore. And that group that was getting it originally, that was responding to it, maybe because of your algorithm, they're not getting it anymore because it's a sponsored post. Now you've lost some of your organic people, and you've got your this new audience that's not engaging. And so it's like this catch-22 of marketing, right? And so we've had just a really interesting look at this to figure out, okay, how do we put just enough to where we keep it consistent? And part of that is setting a budget. Just set it and forget it. The budget's done, the budget's done. That's it. Set it and forget it. And if you're consistent, you don't have these big peaks. Like we had this huge peak of spending, and then we kind of tapered back. And that big peak, I think, ended up costing us with some of our organic and some of our spend. So be consistent. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I feel like LinkedIn to me is probably one of the best free opportunities you have. Didn't I do LinkedIn? Didn't I do a LinkedIn class? Yeah. I talked about the blog feature. Do y'all know that you can write blogs on there? It's like the best thing ever. Yes, it's the best thing ever. The blogs on there are free to write, and all your people see them. Now, which one up here costs money? Online, print, direct mail. Let's talk about these just quickly. So magazines, newspapers, flyers, newsletters, just listed, you name it. Here's the thing that I want to stress is that you got to take advantage of. When it comes to direct mail, you're going to need to be consistent. If you're going to do it, you want to be consistent with it. Okay? And there are a lot of ways to do that. There are a lot of ways to be consistent with that. But one of the things is just listed cards. And if, as far as I know, one of the things we talked about, just listed is part of your program. Just listed and just sold is part of your program. Do you know that I work with a lot of brokers in San Antonio and they don't do that? Guess who it's on to make sure that happens? The realtor has to do that. Okay? Now the fact that you're brokerage, that's part of what your package, that's part of what you do, because you don't even have to what? You don't even have to think about it. It just happens. That right there is a huge benefit. Huge benefit for being a Century 21 agent here. So to me, I go to classes and I'll ask, who here sends just listed cards? And I'll be in a class of 50 people in San Antonio, and 2 people will raise their hand. 2. And I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense. And then I'll say, who does just sold? Oh, then I'll have 4 people raise their hand. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You're doing just sold, but you're not doing just listed? Do you realize the power of a just listed card? That lets everybody on that street know that house is for sale, and I know how much it costs. I wonder what mine's worth. Let me call them. Anybody gotten a call from a just listed card? Yep. Anybody got a call from a just sold card? They will call you. My flyer story is very cool because number one, I was at a brokerage where they call them touch cards. And so every quarter they would send out cards. So 4 times a year they would send out cards. We had a bunch of people on our list. So it was pretty expensive, but it was worth it because we were getting in front of people. Now, guess how long it took for us to get our first call from that flyer? 6 months? Good guess. Keep going. Anybody else?
1 year.
1 year? Keep going. Almost 2 years. 2 years. The first call we got was for a house for $695,000, right? You think that was a good listing to have? You think it paid for all my direct mail? Paid for all of that, okay? All of it. So the idea is, not only did I get that listing, I got the listing on the next street because they saw my sign, and he's like, hey, you know, I'd like for you to come to a listing presentation. I went over there and I said, hey, how did you find us? He says, well, you've been sending us these flyers for the last 2 years. And so it works, people. Now, I'll even show you how it works in the opposite direction because I walked into my dad's house. I'd been a realtor for about 6 months. Walk in my dad's house, go to the refrigerator because, you know, when you get to your parents' house, what's the first thing you do? You got to go to their refrigerator and get something to drink, you know? So I walked to his refrigerator, and right there, I'm going to open the double doors, and there's a recipe with a realtor's face on the fridge. And I'm like, yo, Dad, what is this? I said, this isn't me. He's like, oh, you know, we want to cook that chicken whatever recipe, chicken ranch. And I'm like, you could go to the internet for that. Now, I was so offended. He had another realtor's face on his refrigerator, and it wasn't me, okay? Now, why did that happen? It happened because someone was consistent, they were predictable, and they were targeting an area. They were farming. They were consistent, and they were predictable. I had a lady in one of my other classes, she's in title, and she says, I have a folder. I've been getting calendars and recipes for the last 10 years from this one lender. A lender for 10 years. She has them all categorized in a little folder. I said, you're saving them? She's like, they're great recipes. And I scratched my head and I was like, okay, I got to ask this because, you know, this will help my story, you know, because I got to ask. What would you think my question was? I was like, have you ever used her? She says, no. And I thought, oh my gosh. She goes, but anytime anybody asks me about lending, I tell people about her. I was like, wait a minute. You've never used her. You've been getting these recipes for 10 years, and you tell people about her services? Think about that for a second. Just let that soak in. Recipes work. What about football schedules? Anybody send out the school football schedule? That's popular. Think about it. Look around this room. Nobody in this room is sending out a football schedule. Do it. Do it. Where's your picture and that schedule going to go? Right on the fridge. Right? And you could actually, if you go to, I don't know if y'all have heard of Reaching Neighbors. If you've heard of some of these mailing, I don't know what companies you guys use, but there's one in San Antonio. They do all over. But you could say, hey, I want you to find everybody that has kids in high school. Kids in high school. And I want to mail just to kids in high school. They'll get the list ready for you. They'll build a flyer for you. And you can send it all out. Think about that. And you can do it every year. Now, now here's the deal. Some of y'all are going to actually do that, and they're going to have 2 pictures on the fridge. There's going to be 2 of y'all fighting. I love it. But, hey, it works. Now, the last thing that I want to share with you is that, because of time, and we'll do a little Q&A, the last thing I want to share with you, online is very expensive. Pay-per-click. Has anybody ever tried pay-per-click? Yeah? Y'all do pay-per-click in office? Yeah, this can get really pricey really quickly. You know, building a agent website. Has anybody gone through the process of building their own website? Yeah? Very pricey, it's very difficult. Or you can go the other route. My wife and I, we built one on Wix. Oh, it was hilarious. It was called Mr. and Mrs. Realtor.com. Completely illegal, right? And it was so cute. My wife spent like a month building this website. I'm like, with the amount of time she poured into that website on Wix, I mean, we could have bought something really crazy. But the idea being is that this is very pricey, and you need to really, really think about, if you're going to go that route, really think about it, weighing it against what you already have with your brokerage and how they have their things set up. Just weigh that out from a cost-benefit analysis. And then, of course, blogs. Trust me when I tell you this, blogs still work. Giving good information still works. Telling people about the market in a blog format still works. People still read. I know you think they don't. They still read. If you get it out there and it's good information, they're going to read it. And then last and not least, obviously magazine and newspapers, you know, there is a cost associated with it. But when there are opportunities that fit your niche, go for it. Dive in. Dive in. Last but not least, we got to talk about this. Expectations. Now, whenever you market, we're talking about the 3 B's of marketing. I had to add this slide because as I was starting to talk about it, one of the big questions are like, well, what, you know, if I do this ad, if I do this, you know, of course, like my phone's going to ring off the hook, right? Like I'm going to get like 20 leads from this one thing, right? And I have to help people understand that marketing takes time. Your phone's not going to ring off the hook. It takes time, okay? You have to understand that you need to track everything. Track it. You need to know your ROI. Y'all know what ROI is? Return on investment. What is your ROI, right? If you're going to do something, track it. If somebody calls you, ask them, how did you hear about me? Please, please. You should track every single person that calls you. Because if your neighbor, Rudy, if Rudy has told 20 people about you, Rudy better get the best Christmas gift of his life every Christmas, right? If he's giving you 20 deals, that's a VIP client. That's a client that you might want to take to dinner every once in a while. That's a client that you want to just put your arms around and just say, you're awesome. Right? But if you don't track it, how do you know who's your VIP clients? How do you know? Right? And then number 4, if you're trying to build a brand, keep in mind, it's one ad, one Facebook post, one blog, one video. It's a building process. You're not going to build your brand in 1 month. Now, y'all know the story of when Tony's, your office where we met. So Tony and I met at your office on River? What? Market. Water Street. Yeah, Water Street. We met at her office. Did anybody ever see her office here? Did anybody was a part of that? Her office there? I remember walking in and we met right away that first day. I walked in with my magazines. I was so excited. I just started Luxury Home Magazine, right? And I remember walking in and we talked and everything. And I think back to that time and I think, okay, because we're only talking 7 years. Think about it.
It was only seven?
It was 7 years ago. 7 or 8, because I started my magazine in 8 years ago.
Because, yeah, I was over there in 8 years ago. I've been at the new company for 7.
7 now, right? So you think back to that time when I saw that office, because, yeah, you moved right away. You moved right away. What year was that? 2012? 11?
2011 is when I did the Section 21 thing.
Got it. 2000. So that was right about that switch. But I want you to think about this. So think about that short of time. The brand that has been developed over what has been built over the last 8 years. Think about it. Right? Think about it. The brand that has happened over the last 8, did it start the first month? Was it created like poof, like boom, 1 month? No. It was, little by little. It was consistent. It was predictable. She was reinvesting consistently, making sure it was congruent, making sure that we're building this piece by piece, layer by layer. We're not going for the home run all at one time. No. We're going to build it a little bit at a time to where we see the brand where it is today. You have Fredericksburg, you have Kerrville. You see the brand. People see the brand, everybody. People see what you're doing. If anybody sees Kerrville and go on Instagram, do y'all remember when we had our Instagram class, what happened? The explosion on Instagram, it's all Century 21. I mean, it's amazing. So the idea is that it didn't happen overnight, right? Your brand, as you build who you are and your niche, it won't happen overnight. It's not just going to be poof, here it is. No, you got to build it, your brand, by knowing your brand advantage. You got to be congruent and you got to live it. And when you do that and you know it, then you could start applying the budget to those areas that fit the best. And then lastly, you can actually step in and find the vehicles that are going to give you the best ROI for your investment where you want to go. Lastly, you guys know you can find me on tm3impact.com. I've got my Mindset Mondays every Monday. Typically, I'm bringing a really cool mindset, positive, something to get you thinking for the week. And then I have a podcast as well on iTunes. And what else? Then, of course, if you sign up, you'll get the weekly email, and it'll actually give you the Mindset Monday. But the last thing I want to tell you about is this. I've been a part of John Maxwell for many, many, many years. And John Maxwell has brought so much value to my life. We're doing a simulcast at Topgolf, which is right down the street. And I want you to notice, does anybody know who that is? That's Rachel Hollis. Does anybody know who Rachel Hollis is? Oh my goodness. Listen, this young lady, she wrote a book called Girl, Wash Your Face. Okay, you've heard that book? Okay. Rachel Hollis is pure fire. She is an unbelievable speaker. Of course, John Maxwell. This young lady right here, she is the vice president of retail for Apple Computers. Hello. I think she's going to drop some wisdom on us. Now, this is what you need to know about a simulcast. The thing you need to know about a simulcast is that Rachel Hollis will not be at Topgolf. John Maxwell will not be at Topgolf. It's going to be on a video. They're going to be speaking from a video. I've been doing this Live to Lead for 4 years. I hold it every year. This year I'm partnering with another John Maxwell team member, and we're having it at Topgolf. You can buy tickets. You can buy tables. This is something where you're going to come on a Friday morning. You'll come down. Starts at 9. You'll get out around 1 or 2. You'll have lunch. Lunch is included. You're going to come down and be filled up with so much good stuff that you can bring back for your family, for your friends, for your business. All of these speakers are unbelievable. And if you've never heard John Maxwell speak, just trust me, you're going to sit there and go, why have I never heard about this guy? John Maxwell will just drop some amazing knowledge. So hopefully you can make it out there. I'll be there. This is one of my events that we put on every year, and it's something that it's a lot of fun. And with that, I want to close with